Good afternoon. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. You can watch us live on your smart TV at YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. On WCEG Network, we're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. You can subscribe free to our YouTube channel at WCEG Network. Like, follow us, and connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We also have new platforms for you, ladies and gentlemen. You can download our free mobile apps on your iPhones or iPad. You can go to Apple Store and search WCEG Talk Radio, Apple TV, Apple Watch. Also on your Android mobile phones and tablets, you go to Google Play Store and search WCEG Talk Radio. Last but not least, the topics and opinions of those of the show hosts and guests and not of the WCEG Network. We thank you for your continued support. I am Dr. Ronald Tolbert. I am a veterinarian and the owner of Red Oak Animal Hospital Incorporated here in South Fulton, Georgia. We'd like to welcome you to the show, and this is Paw Sensitive. Again, I am the owner of Red Oak Animal Hospital. I've been in business and served the community for over 35 years. We exclusively at this point serve and perform small animal surgery and medicine. I am also on several boards where we mentor to college students, both from the vet school at Tuskegee University and from the animal science department. We serve as mentors also to high school students and to those students that are in the veterinary technician program at Folk Valley University, where I am a board member. I'm also a member of the Red Oak Historic District here in South Fulton, a member of the Miracle League of South Fulton. Also, I am a proud member of the greatest fraternity on earth, and that is Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We'd like to welcome our special guest today. This will be Mr. Rodney Stone. He is the USDA liaison and has a partnership with Tuskegee University, an animal science program there. Welcome, Mr. Stone.
Good afternoon, Dr. Talbert.
Well, listen, we're glad to have you here today. What we'd like to start with is, can you give us an idea of your history, how you came to be in the position that you are, and what exactly is a USDA liaison?
Let me start out with, I'm also a member of the greatest fraternity in the world, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm also an alumnus of Tuskegee University that you mentioned earlier. And I got my start in the agricultural world from Tuskegee University. And I am fortunate enough to be serving in a position as the USDA liaison assigned to Tuskegee University, where I essentially work with students and educating them in the area of agriculture, employing them, recruiting them to be employed with USDA, and working with limited resource landowners. I also manage a scholarship that pays full tuition, room and board, gives you a job every summer. When you graduate, you actually come work for USDA. And that scholarship is applicable to 1890 universities across the country. In fact, the scholarship application is open as we speak today. The closing date is March 15th, 2023. And you still have time to apply for that opportunity. If you go to USDA.gov, look up the USDA 1890 scholarship, it will take you to a link and you can apply. The scholarship is electronic, so there's no paperwork involved. And hopefully those of you out there listening will share that information with your loved ones, your family, church, community, schools, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that sounds great. And for those of you who are not familiar with USDA, you could also, we'll provide a link for that information that you just gave. You can go to facebook.com, WCEG Talk Radio, or you can contact me at redoakah.com or look at us on Facebook and follow us on Facebook. Going back to the USDA, essentially, what does the USDA do for America?
So let me put it in its most short form. They ensure that we can eat. And they cover all aspects of that platform: clean air, clean water, clean soil, animal husbandry, and the completion of the supply chain from farm to packaging to the store. It's all about our ability to eat as a country.
Okay, that sounds great. Let me ask you something though. When we're talking about supplying the food, there are certain areas, I guess, that we have to address in terms of how we actually protect your citizens from, getting food that is not suitable for eating. Can you talk about some of the diseases or some of the things that we have to worry about in terms of import and export, of products, food products, in and out of the United States?
So essentially what you are speaking of are potential zoonotic diseases. Those are diseases that can be transferred from humans to animals, from animals to humans. Most knowledgeable for those of us, and we don't pay a lot of attention to it, would be rabies. Another would be swine flu. Another would be bird flu. There are a number of diseases that can be transferred from animals to humans and vice versa. And the objective behind that, your role as a veterinary doctor is to take care of animals, but a veterinary doctor that works for United States Department of Agriculture may be doing what you call food safety and health. Simply put, they act on behalf of a particular agency to ensure that our food is safe and that you could take it home, cook it, eat it without getting sick.
Okay, that sounds good. The other thing too, I guess we have to realize too, is that agribusiness or agriculture is exactly that, a business. For instance, right now, we're concerned about the high prices of eggs. I know last year before, I could buy a dozen eggs for $2. Now it's $8. And there are reasons why these things happen. You have to also realize that there are certain products that we produce in certain states. For instance, here in Georgia, we probably produce more chickens than anybody else in the country. We produce beef, peanuts, corn, soy, all these type of things. If a foreign disease got into these any of these industries, what would be the impact, to the consumer?
Well, technology is such that we can typically trace diseases from source now, which I think is a main function of the supply chain process. However, if disease component gets into the food resource, it could have a devastating effect on the population. This is why tracing is so very important. You want to be able to track the beginning of a resource to the end of the resource, and then be able to intervene along the way if needed. And you often hear about food illnesses or outbreaks. Salmonella would be one of the most common ones. Mm-hmm. And it can occur by eating at a restaurant, and then it can be traced back to that restaurant, or it could occur by buying a tainted package at the grocery store, and it could be traced back to that shipment to the grocery store. So both the tracing element and the shipping element go hand in hand, and they are tools that are utilized to help keep our food safe.
Okay. You also talked about some of the, I guess, community needs, and I guess particularly in Alabama, where we have, I think you have a situation where you help get food to those who really need it. How is that done? And what is what is the program, I guess, that you guys are providing for the community?
So the most recent occurrence that stopped here not too long ago was the food box giveaway program, which was a very positive, very effective and sustainable program that was operated during the heat of the COVID pandemic and up until recently. And there would be boxes of food given to those who couldn't necessarily get out and make it to the grocery store, or because we were shut down and semi-shut down, provided a resource and a bridge for that person who may not necessarily be that well off economically, or that person whose transportation was hindered, or that person who may not be that physically healthy. It served as a wonderful stopgap. We have programs that people don't think about. SNAP, which is basically the food stamp program, feeding people. WIC, which is a program for mothers, infant, and children. The lunch school program, the school lunch program, school breakfast program, the at youth after school at risk meals program. So there are a number of functions and opportunities or dots that connect together to make sure that we have a sustainable and adequate platform for feeding the country.
Okay, does the American Rescue Act figure in that in any way?
Yes, there are funds. Of course, a person will have to go in and research the pool of funds. But there are funds in the American Rescue Act that's directed towards agriculture and ensuring or supporting the sustainability of the agricultural process.
So as a consumer, I mean, can anybody access this, or where would you suggest they go?
Well, the American Rescue Plan is a public information document. And so you can Google it and look it up and read it. But most important, I would tell folks is to follow the trends, keep up with the news, read the labels on your items that you purchase at the grocery store, know what you're purchasing, okay? And then, a lot of people don't think source. Where does this chicken, where does the greens or the watermelon come from? What is the source? And, it's very, very important. Most of us go to the store, we purchase items, and we never think about the source.
Got it. Well, I know one thing that we experience here in the Southeast, especially in the country, and people don't think about this, and we got to think way back, because I remember when I was at Tuskegee also, we had a guy named Booker T. Watley, and he developed what we call the 5-acre plan, where he grew 5 different crops and rotated them year round so that farmers would get paid year round. Most farmers, small farmers, especially in the Black community, they would raise one crop, get paid one time a year. Okay, and that's what was sustained in the rest of the year. Now, a lot of farms have disappeared. So now we're out in Scriven County, Georgia. There's no grocery store within 10 miles. So now we're looking at what we call food deserts, where there's not a grocery store close enough for people to get fresh fruits and vegetables and meats. And what are we supposed to do about that? And I think that these are some of the challenges, that we're dealing with now. Is there anything that the USDA is doing to kind of help address that, or even at Tuskegee University or any of the public universities?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is the support and development of regional food hubs, farmers markets. Those opportunities are very, very important to communities. They serve as bridges or potentially stopgap efforts in dealing with food deserts, and consider urban gardening, where communities are taking it into their own hands to grow produce, and in some instances, small lot farming, where they can raise livestock and grow produce. Folks are really taking a proactive approach. USDA has taken a proactive approach to try to bridge some of those gaps and to make sure that we have a system of sustainability. But it's a two-way street. It's not just USDA, it is the community, it is the local law legislators of that community who make every effort to support and to write and develop policy that will be conducive and supportive of that process.
Yeah, I've heard of those type of programs. As a matter of fact, my cousin is involved with that down in Savannah, where they'll make a partnership with a grocery store, and they'll get, they'll find a warehouse that's kind of centrally located in a rural community. And what they'll do is they'll have these people order their foods. They'll come on Saturdays to pick up all their supplies and their foods at one central location. And you got to remember, a lot of these people that are out there, they don't have vehicles. They're elderly. They can't really go anywhere. So that's kind of is helpful. And speaking of local legislatures, I can say for our community, for one, we have a Councilman, Helen Willis, who has been very instrumental in doing some of the things that you talked about in terms of food giveaways. She's done this, religiously during COVID. I partner with her myself. We try to do what we call a food card giveaway on MLK weekend. This is our third year doing it. I try to put in anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 toward that, and they combine with us and the grocery store to make sure that we get these cards distributed to people that need them. So I think that's a great idea. And I think this is something that we really need to pay attention to, because again, during COVID, a lot of people, were in food distress. And I think that some of the things that USDA doing and what you're teaching those students and youth at Tuskegee University is very important. Can you tell me about the students that you get and what they're learning?
So we get a variety of students from all over the country, and they're learning in this particular context, they're learning about agriculture, everything from food and nutritional sciences, animal science and pre-veterinary medicine, environmental science, plant soil science, wildlife, forestry and natural resources, agribusiness. And these are what I would call very, very diverse study areas, but they're very, very important study areas. And why are they important? We have to raise the next generation of agricultural scientists so that we can continue eating. If a person just looks at the long and the short of it, without eating, we are in trouble. There's nothing else. There's nothing else.
Cannot go hungry, Jack.
If you got a military and you can't feed them, they won't fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. And just like we talked about, they're talking about the war in Ukraine all the time. I can't imagine. I mean, I did not realize that Ukraine supplied so much wheat in the world.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. And when they had that blockade on there, that they cannot deliver that wheat to the rest of the world.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. So, from that perspective, we don't take a global view of things. A lot of times in our day-to-day interaction, we're in our own world and we don't think about these things. Mm-hmm. It is a domino effect. What goes on with Ukraine and the grain has an effect on us here in the United States, and vice versa. What goes on with us here, if it's adverse, will have an effect on those people on the European continent. And food and our ability to eat is a worldwide issue.
You got it. I guess the weather isn't helping us much either over the last few years with these droughts, with the snow, with the hurricanes, with the tornadoes. I think that's wreaking havoc on us as well. A lot of people don't realize that, homes are destroyed, lives are sometimes lost, but I don't think they realize just how devastating that is to agriculture. Can you talk about that?
Well, it's so one of the things that I think is one moving forward with USDA is the use of high grades of technology and climate smart farming. And that is adapting your farming practices to what's going on with the climate. And even though you may have folk who deny climate issues, it's obvious in the patterns of the weather that we do have climate issues, and those producers and landowners have to utilize climate smart technology going forward.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I think it has to do with the many disasters that we have as well. For instance, the hurricanes that go through Florida, and matter of fact, came through Georgia as well. We can talk about, oranges, watermelons, cotton, peanuts, corn, all of that took a heavy hit, when Maria came through and all those other hurricanes, not to mention the fact, of the drought that we have out there in the Southwest. So all these things affect, the prices of the goods that we buy and try to consume. So again, I think what you're doing in USDA is very important in helping to deal with some of that, although we can't do much about the hurricanes. But I think that, we have to figure out how to better produce what we've been doing, for hundreds of years.
Let's not take a weather event. Let's take an event that occurred here recently, and that was the train derailment in Ohio.
Yeah.
And its impact on the environment, or potential impact on the environment, the length of time that impact may be, and the potential impact that it may have on agricultural resources for that area, the soil, the water, the air. All of that comes into consideration, and it will have an adverse impact, and maybe short term, maybe long term.
Exactly.
We don't know right now, but we do know there will be an impact.
Okay, got it. And for our viewers, again, could you give us the information that they would need, first of all, to get in touch with you or with the USDA, and these how the students are going to get in touch for those scholarships again?
Okay, so if you are interested in finding out more about the USDA 1890 scholarship, you could email me at rodney.stone@usda.gov. I will also forward you the link to the scholarship information. I can be reached via phone at 334-724-4493, by cell at 202-306-9884. And once again, I am the USDA liaison assigned to Tuskegee University. However, at the other 1890 land grant HBCUs, there is a liaison assigned there as well.
Really?
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes.
And what schools does that include, for example?
FAMU, Florida A&M University, Tennessee State University, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Fort Valley University, Prairie View A&M University, Langston University, Lincoln University, Maryland Eastern Shore University. Just to name a few.
Oh, wow. And so you right now, I understand that you're having some students in DC. What are they experiencing?
They are going through a training with the Agricultural Marketing Service. It's a career development and leadership training that they're going through right now. And it's preparing them for hands-on experience with the Ag Marketing Service.
Oh, sounds good. Well, I kind of like the idea of the farmers market and that type of thing. And while we're on that subject, just want to remind the listeners that here in South Fulton, we have the Red Oak Historic District. We will have our farmers market beginning in April and go through October. It will be on the first and third Saturdays. It will not be in front of New Life Church this time because we need more room because we're expanding so much. It will now be at the parking lot of Siloam Church on Roosevelt Highway for those of you who are interested. But again, that's going to be beginning in April. And it goes all the way to October, the first and third Saturdays of the month. And I think you'll find that you'll have a lot of good choices there. Not only are we selling food substance, but we're selling clothing and this type of thing. And we hope to see you there. We'd like to thank Mr. Stone for being our guest today. And is there anything else that you'd like to say or mention to our listeners before you go?
No, thank you for having me. I think it's always important for those folks who are not necessarily operating in the agricultural world to be reminded of the importance and what it means to all of us.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Take care, and thank you, Dr. Tolbert.
Thank you. And once again, this is WCEG Talk Radio. We appreciate you listening to us today. Stay tuned for our next show, which will be in April. If you need to contact me, you can reach me on our website at www.redoakah.com or follow us on Facebook, at redoakfacebook.com. This is the WCEG Network, and thank you for listening. Have a great day.